do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
What's up, everyone? My name is Ethan. This is Courtside TV. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get into it. So today, I wanted to talk about Joel Embiid and his injury, because this is something that will surely be consequential over the coming weeks, knowing that Joel Embiid will be out at least a couple of weeks with a bone bruise in his knee. Luckily, very luckily, it was not something much worse, because when he went down the other night, a lot of people were fearing ACL, and I was fearing ACL as well, and I was hoping that that was not the case, and it turns out that he got lucky and escaped a serious injury. So we're going to talk about what this means for Embiid and for the Sixers, and I think the NBA as a whole, because this has some pretty big implications on not only the Eastern Conference standings, but also the MVP race, which we'll get to. So first of all, the Sixers are the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference right now. They're 1 game ahead of the Brooklyn Nets, exactly 1 game. Philly, as I'm recording this, is 27-12. Brooklyn is 26-13. So, things can swing very quickly, and I would expect the Nets to probably overtake Philly over these next couple of weeks, given that Embiid will be out for a little while. I would expect that Brooklyn will probably overtake them. They're also only 2.5 games ahead of the Milwaukee Bucks, so that's, there's the chance that they fall all the way down to 3, which would be certainly, not ideal for them, but not the worst thing in the world. They have built themselves quite a cushion ahead of the 4th team, which is the Miami Heat. So they probably, I would bet that the lowest they fall is 3. There's always the potential that they could go on a big losing streak and tumble down further, but the team is good. They can win without Embiid. Obviously, he is a big part of what they do, but they should still be able to at least stay afloat without him. So they probably won't fall too much further than 3, but this is a good opportunity for Brooklyn and Milwaukee here to sort of make a run and maybe leapfrog Philly in the standings. That's really the first thing you're going to look at. So this is their upcoming schedule. Embiid will probably be out longer than this, but this is through about the next 2 weeks, through their next big road trip, because as you can see, they've got a big road trip coming up here. They're on a 3-game homestand. Knicks, Bucks, and Kings, those are not crazy games. The Bucks is going to be tough. Knicks are competitive. The Kings, you should probably be able to still win that, but then that road trip is going to be tough. This big long road at New York, Golden State, both LA teams, Denver and Cleveland. That's really where the test is going to come in here for Philly, because specifically that 4-game stretch of Golden State, Lakers, Clippers, and Nuggets, that's a gauntlet right there. Those are 4 playoff teams in the Western Conference, and without Joel Embiid, you're going to be playing against some really, really good teams there. So that's going to be tough for Philly to be able to stay afloat there. And the Bucks have a nice chance, here in a couple of days to try to make up some ground in the standings. They don't play Brooklyn for a little while, so they might have Embiid back by the next time they play Brooklyn. But these, there's a nice chance for Milwaukee to leapfrog them here. And if they can't get things going by the time this road trip happens, specifically that 4-game stretch that I mentioned, they could be in trouble. They could be in danger of slipping down the standings here. Don't necessarily think that'll happen, but that's the first thing you look at, and the worry here for the Sixers missing their best player. So now can we think about what the Sixers are going to look like without Embiid? What guys they could potentially have step up and fill the void, any moves they could potentially make. So let's go into that. First of all, the first thing you're going to look for is Ben Simmons playing up to a higher standard, because he is a guy who, with Embiid healthy, Simmons does not score a lot. It's around 14, 15, 16 points maybe. Depends on the night for him. But he's not going to, when Embiid's healthy, he's not the guy that gets you 20 every night. He's not a guy who's going to shoot the ball a ton. He more, plays a lot of defense, is kind of the glue guy for the Sixers. And that's his role with Embiid healthy and stuff, and that's totally fine. But with Joel Embiid out, Ben Simmons needs to take on heavier offensive responsibility. And that was something that people had criticized him for, prior, because Embiid is a guy who has missed some time with injuries at points, and we've seen Ben Simmons do his solo act, and at points it has been underwhelming, because he doesn't put the ball in the basket, isn't really able to shoot, and just doesn't seem to be aggressive. But specifically, I think a lot of us will remember a couple of weeks ago, Embiid missed a game at Utah against the Jazz, who were very, very hot at the time. They still are pretty hot, but at the time that was in the middle of their big long win streak. And they go to Utah. Embiid is ruled out very shortly before tip, and Ben Simmons came out and scored like 42, I think, 42, 44, in the 40s, scored, I think it was a career high for him, and was able to, take control of the offense, and they were in that game till the very end. They didn't end up winning, but it was a really close one late, and that was largely due to Ben Simmons being aggressive and attacking, and, doing all the things that his team needed him to do with their MVP candidate out of the game. that's what the Sixers are going to need Ben Simmons to do for the next couple of weeks. Now, they're not going to, like, he's not going to average 30. He's not going to score 40 every night like he did that one game that I was talking about. But he is a guy that can get you, 20, 22 every night if he's being aggressive and learning, knowing how to play the game, knowing how the defense is guarding him, getting to the rim a lot, getting his free throws up. And that's what we're going to have to see from Ben Simmons over the next couple of weeks. He has a very heavy defensive responsibilities. He has a very heavy playmaking responsibility. He's going to be asked to do a lot for Philly. But, if he's able to do it, then that's what's going to keep them afloat in the Eastern Conference. And if he's not, then I think they're going to take a tumble down the standings. The rest of the team is good, but they're going to need Ben Simmons to step up and do his thing. And he's shown that he's capable of it, so we'll just have to see him, go out there and prove to everybody that he can. As far as guys who need to step up and fill the void, you're looking at Dwight Howard, who obviously plays the same position as the big man there. He'll probably be the starter, I would assume, while he's out. They might go with a rotating starting lineup depending on the matchup here, but I would assume Dwight Howard would get the bulk of those minutes. He had a good game the other night, kind of looked like Orlando Dwight back. He's a guy who, plays tough basketball. He's not necessarily a big time scorer anymore, but if they ask him to, I'm sure he could, slide right in and catch those lobs, get into the paint, do all the Dwight Howard stuff that we've seen from him in the past. Tony Bradley also is a guy who had a good game the other day. Now, I'm not the biggest Tony Bradley fan. I've seen him play in person multiple times. If you don't know, I live in Utah, and I go to the Utah Summer League that they have here with the Jazz, and they invite a couple of different teams. Tony Bradley used to play on the Jazz, and I've watched him for like 3 or 4 years in a row at the Summer League. Never thought he was that good, but hey, he's making the most of his opportunity with Philly, so we'll see if he ends up being anything for them. I would assume he'd play a little bit more, probably take those backup minutes away from Dwight Howard because he's going to be the starter. And you're looking at, Matisse Thybulle to continue to play his defense and keep the defense afloat. Same with Ben Simmons there. Tyrese Maxey, guy can get you buckets. And, they're going to probably be relying on Maxey and Seth Curry and Tobias Harris to pick up the scoring load a little more, along with Ben Simmons, just because Embiid's a guy who averages, 20-something, 26, 27, however much he's averaging this year. You're going to have those other guys pick up the scoring slack. But I think they have enough on this roster. In my opinion, I don't think they need to, go out and try to sign a center for the next couple of weeks. If it was more of a long-term injury, maybe, but I think for the next couple of weeks, they're okay just running Dwight Howard, Tony Bradley. You can even play Ben Simmons, small ball center. Tobias Harris can do it at points. So I think they're okay there. As far as options, Boogie Cousins is out there. There's a couple of Dwayne Dedmon, I know, is a name that people are going to bring up. There's a couple of centers out there on the market. I don't necessarily think that that's going to be a huge, Philly has to scramble for one. I think they're going to be okay. And then as far as the MVP race, this kind of sucks because I think for a lot of people, Embiid was the MVP frontrunner. In my opinion, I still think it's a little too early to be talking about the MVP as much as we are. I made a video on that a couple weeks back. But he was definitely a top 3 candidate, I think, for a lot of people. If you held a gun to my head and say, hey, you got to vote today, I would probably go with Embiid, I think, would be my choice. But there's a lot of guys who are worthy. Him missing a couple of weeks will hurt his case. If it's, 15 games or however much it is, 15, 16 games, he's only playing, 60 out of a 72-game season or only 55 out of a 72-game season. That could end up hurting the candidacy when it comes down to it. And we're saying, well, Jokic played all year, LeBron played all year, Curry played all year, and Embiid had to miss 2/3 of the season. That'll be tough. He'll just have to have that argument over a couple of other guys in terms of statistics, and given how close everything is, I don't know if it'll be that convincing, so it is definitely tough for his MVP case. I don't think it removes him from the race entirely. Depends on how much time he misses. But it is tough for that. It gives an opportunity for, like I said, Jokic, LeBron, Curry, Kawhi Leonard. There's some other, all the other candidates that everybody's been talking about for however long. Those guys are, have an opportunity to step up and maybe take the reins from Embiid as the MVP frontrunner. But yeah, that'll just be interesting to see how that goes. But yeah, I think that's about all I have on the Philadelphia 76ers and Joel Embiid. Like I said at the top of the video, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, ring the bell if you want to, leave a comment letting me know what you guys think about Embiid's injury. How are the Sixers going to be impacted by this over the next couple of weeks? Would love to know your thoughts down below. But with all that said, I will see you guys in the next one.